Hey guys, LDC here, and welcome back to day 3 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge series, where I'll be continuing my quest to complete this mod pack in just 14 days. You can see on the left there that time has gone way through today already. I'm starting quite late. I think I'm going to be playing until pretty late in the evening, or the early morning even, to get this thing done. So today, the main goal is really just to complete the resource production system. I've looked everything over one more time, and I think if I just finish this whole system up, then I'll be good to go, and in a really good spot for tomorrow. So, first things first, to get this thing going, we need to power these here machines. And to do that, I want some conduits, and I'm going to be making the most basic version of conduit. The leadstone energy conduit. Each entry point on the leadstone energy conduit can carry up to 80 RF a tick, and that's already the maximum production of each of my lava generators. You can see I've already made some conduit here earlier. So the leadstone energy conduit is all I'm going to need to power these machines, as long as I have enough of it to reach down to my lava generators. Make a little hole. And I'm just going to take the damage. Can't quite reach that. Tower my way up. And bring the power cable down. That's now linked up to power. I remove my crappy little tower. And hook that up. So now, these machines are all very slowly powering up. I don't have a lot of power, but it will be enough to keep these guys moving. So, that's a pretty good start. All my pulverizers are powered. The next thing is to configure them correctly. Now, if my extruders are going to go here and output cobble, then all these are going to just be gravel. I don't need to configure these. However, these 7 pulverizers that are going to be doing 4 of sand and 3 of dust are going to need some setting up. So I put servos in these machines, and I've already done most of these. All I need to do is set up these 4 to only accept gravel in the whitelist. And you can see each of these is already set to accept gravel in the whitelist. And then these 3 are going to set to accept dust in the whitelist. Sorry, sand in the whitelist. They're going to produce dust after accepting sand. And again, these are already set to go. So now, I take some igneous extruders and set them to start pumping cobble into the system. First, I make sure they're all set to output on the right. I provide them all with water and with lava. This system really only works if, or outputs in the right ratios anyway, if there's enough cobble going into the system to keep these stocked at all times. So I do need 3 extruders to keep the 6 cobble pulverizers stocked constantly. So these are producing cobble. These item ducts are configured incorrectly. I'll set them to output. And you can see now the cobble is removing itself from this system. First it will go into this pulverizer. These item ducts are quite slow. There it goes. That pulverizer is going to start sorting that out, and it's going to fill up first and then go down the chain. It's going to take a while for this whole system to balance itself out before things start getting auto-sieved at this system. You can see I've got 4 autonomous activators on 1 sieve right now. That's actually all the activators I could make. These ones at the bottom set to aim high, so they're still right-clicking on this sieve. But yeah, I'm out of diamonds, so I can't make any more autonomous activators, which I'll need to do if I want to increase my production speed. If I'm not making diamonds quick enough, I can rejigger some of these ratios, maybe even remove some of these pulverizers altogether, to get more gravel out of the system than my current 33%. I don't think that's going to be necessary, but if it is, that's always an option. So the next thing I need to do is massively upgrade my sorting and storage for this system. These 2 copper chests, once this really gets amping, are not going to last very long. You can see already that items are making their way into it. So I need to work on upgrading my storage. Okay, so while I was preparing to sort out my new sorting system, which I have not yet started, I noticed that these machines were already running low on power. Their buffers were emptying. I was a bit confused by this. I thought the problem was the conduits not having enough capacity, even though I was sure they did, so I upgraded them to hardened energy conduits. This didn't fix the problem, because the actual issue was that these were consuming 40 RF a tick, whereas for some reason I remembered them consuming only 20. I'm not sure if it changed, or the more likely option is of course that my memory is poor. So because they were consuming 40 RF a tick, these 30 machines would have required 6.5 lava generators to run. I only had 5, so I did not actually have enough power production to power these. So I've added more lava generators. I'm pretty close to maxing out my lava production, and I will need more power quite soon, so I'm going to need to increase my lava production and dice with the laggy crucibles. But until then, we're back on improving our storage capacities. So the issue currently for storage is that I'm running low on wood, constantly running low on wood. So I'm going to automate my wood collection. To do that, I want plastic to make a harvester. To make plastic, I need a rubber tree, and I didn't get one in my earlier dirt sieving. Instead of sieving dirt, I'm going to make one by getting myself some rubber. I get the rubber with the slimy sapling I got from a quest earlier. I can't grow the slimy sapling with bone meal. It rejects the bone meal effect. However, the watering can doesn't apply a bone meal effect. Instead, it increases growth ticks. So this should increase the speed of the slimy sapling growing. So as you can see there, that was reasonably quick. The trick though is to make sure you're watering the dirt, not the sapling. The watering can increases growth ticks in a 3x3 area from a block, and the sapling doesn't count as a block. So I have some rubber pretty happily. I'm going to cut this down off camera. Okay, so this rubber tree, or the slimy tree from the slimy sapling is removed. I got myself 2 congealed green slime, and 4 more saplings. So I've got myself a couple of slime balls. I can combine these with an oak sapling to make a rubber sapling from Mine Factory Reloaded. This is what I really want. I can bone meal this and get myself the mighty rubber tree. When I cut out the rubber tree wood, I get chunks of raw rubber. Once the raw rubber is cooked in my redstone furnace, it makes rubber bars. Recooking these rubber bars gives me plastic. And I'm going to use this raw plastic to make myself a harvester. As you can see, it requires 2 plastic sheets, which are made at a 1:1 ratio from raw plastic. So I'm going to need some more plastic to make the harvester and also the planter. So I'm going to grind me up a couple of these rubber trees. So I've got these plastic sheets, and that's all I need to make my harvester, as well as some other miscellaneous items, the piston, the reception coil, some shears, and an invar axe. I'm still missing something. What am I missing here? Sheets. It's not shift clicking into it for some reason. I'll build it in the thing and see what I'm missing. Regular shears. Invar axe, redstone reception coil, and 2 gold. That just didn't shift click in. That was pretty annoying. I can also make, though, the planter. I just need a flower pot. So I'll grab some of these bricks I cooked up to make one of those. And that's shift clicking in perfectly fine. I think it's something to do with the fact that the tools I was using were not stacking correctly. So I have a harvester and a planter, and so I'm going to set up a system that'll use these. Alright, so I've got a dinky little harvester planter set up here. Currently, it's not really set up to do a hell of a lot. We've powered it with these conduits. the harvester is set to output to this chest, but then these item ducts are not set to extract. To get this whole thing moving, I'm going to start off with setting this little servo in here to whitelist only oak saplings, because we're going to be farming oak trees. And I can fill out the dirt and most of this like so. We're just going to make a little 3x3, leave one to give me space to fill this guy with oak saplings. And you can see it's planted them already. I'll put down the 9th, and the 9th should come up pretty quick. There it goes. Right, so once these trees grow, the harvester's going to cut them down pretty quick, jam them in this chest. So to speed this process along, I'm going to bone meal up a tree or two, and wait for the harvester to grab it, which does not take long. So in here we've got 6 wood, 2 saplings. I'm going to let this build up for a little while, maybe help it along with some extra bone meal, because I want this wood to make some barrels. We're going to use the barrels here first to grab the outputs of this tree farm and store them in reasonable quantities. Alright, so we've plonked down 4 barrels here. You can see the output of this harvester is oak wood logs, oak saplings, and apples, the products of an oak tree. So in order to correctly store these items, we're going to set these barrels up. This barrel is going to be set to accept oak logs. Now I've crouch right clicked it to lock it to oak logs. Pick the logs back up, it'll only accept logs. Do the same with this barrel. This is going to be set to accept saplings. And finally, apple barrel, which I don't think will provide hugely useful, but you never know. Finally, if any of these barrels fill, in order to stop them crashing the system, I'm going to set this item duct to dense mode. So if anything can find nowhere at all to go, it's going to just delete itself in this barrel here. You can see that all these item ducts are set to output up into the barrels. Next, we've got our item duct here going into the planter, set to vacuum mode. So it's absolutely going to try and get in here, as long as it is a sapling, because that's what I've got whitelisted. All we have to do now, set this here item duct to output, install a servo, and set it to ignore redstone signal. And that's going to start pumping things out. So I can throw my logs, saplings, and not my redstone. Oh dear, it's going to delete that redstone now. Oh man. Well, that was a little bit amusing. So I've just lost a bunch of redstone because I mistook it for apples. But that's okay. You can see that the logs have gone in here, the apples have gone in here, no saplings have gone in here because instead they've gone into the planter. So this whole thing's going to run, and these are going to fill. I'll fill in the rest of this space with cobble. And we have ourselves a working tree farm. Okay, so we've bone mealed out some trees, got ourselves a bunch of barrels, and effectively we're more or less just going to be spamming barrels on this item duct, with a few changes up here and there to deal with some of the items coming out. So in my experience running this system, generally what happens is you get a hell of a lot of certain things and less of other things. So we're going to go for the certain things route first. I'm going to spam down some barrels, put some barrels in a barrel. So some of the things you get the most of are things such as flint, amber, apatite, quicksilver, Certus quartz, bone meal. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but it is a list. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before with the tree farm. Put the flint in the barrel, lock it, and bring it back out. And continue. So I've set up a bunch of locked barrels here to grab the items that are generally the most numerous coming out of this system. It's also worth noting that I really wanted more diamonds and emeralds to make more autonomous activators to speed up this system. So you can see I've disconnected all the entrances to the sand and dust producing pulverizers, so now I'm only making gravel. Once it works its way through the backlog of dust and sand, I'm going to start cranking out some nice diamonds and emeralds and speeding up the auto-sieving system. Alright, so the next step in our ore processing system, my oh my, this has been a lengthy project and there's still quite a way to go, is to expand the power network a little bit. Now, I've currently got these second tier hardened energy conduits just all over the shop, and at some point, sooner rather than later, I'm going to want to upgrade them into the final tier of conduit, the redstone energy conduit, which is the most expensive, requiring some intricate little machine production techniques. Now the trick is that different kinds of conduit do not connect because of the way conduits transfer power in certain quantities. It would be more or less cheating if they were able to connect. So I'm going to want to replace all of this with redstone energy conduit and then continue to expand my power with redstone energy conduit. So this is going to be kind of a tall order because of the expense of the redstone energy conduit. Happily I've got a bunch of resources coming in already. The first step in producing them is to getting some decent-ish obsidian production going. So I'm going to set down this igneous extruder here. This is just the one from my lava system, but I'm using the cobble backlog to power my lava for now. So I set this to obsidian, and to import water from the bottom, and also lava from the top. Lava from the side would be easier. Got a lava drum here. Can bloop. No, nearly. Want this on top of the item duct. Set that to export. The back to input. And of course this is going to need a lever. Conveniently, there's a floating brick. That doesn't quite reach. I'll have to do this the hard way by putting down a piece of cobble. Excuse me, by putting down a piece of cobble. So, lava pours in here. And this is going to slowly churn out obsidian. The next step that I want to complete in making these redstone energy conduits is creating this electrum that's going to be required. I'm going to do that with the smeltery. First I switch off the auto processing and I fill it with gold and silver. The reason I switch off the auto ore processing for now while making alloys is sometimes metals cook, different kinds of metals melt at different paces. So here it looks like the gold's a bit quicker than the silver. Although that could just be because I put it in earlier. But better safe than sorry, I don't want this pumping out the gold before it's had a chance to blend with the silver. So I'm going to let that melt together, and that's going to produce electrum. Alright, so while we wait for those to finish processing, and also for our dust sieving, which is still continuing to provide us the redstone we're going to need for those energy conduits, we're going to get to work on the next stage of our processing project. So what I want now is an auto packager, which is pretty simply put together. Pistons, crafting table, nothing fancy. So I'm going to take that upstairs. Now the way the auto packager works is it does require power. So we can't provide power to it right yet, but we will start to set it up. So here is probably fine. So the way that it works is it scans for an inventory on its left. So I'm going to give it one with this gold chest. And then it outputs to an inventory on its right. I'm not too concerned about that just yet. The inventory on the left is far more important and or interesting, I suppose. Because the inventory on the left is going to be set up to accept... Oh dear, I'll get rid of this for now. To accept all the different kinds of broken ore this system will produce. So all this crushed, pulverized sand, etc. All this is going to go into this chest from the gravel, the sand, and the dust. And what the auto packager is going to do is combine it into its block form, like so. It's going going to output those combinations to an inventory on its right, and I'll deal with them from there. Alrighty then, so that auto packager I've just set up is going to use quite a bit of power, and I'm already sort of at the end of my rope in terms of how much extra power I have lying about, and maybe I want to build more machines later. I don't want to be bottlenecked. So I expanded my lava production. 20 crucibles became 50. Then I threw down a couple more lava generators. I'm at a total of 10 now, but I can use a hell of a lot more than that. So that 800 RF a tick is going to power my pulverizers and my auto packager up on the second tier here. Except they're not quite yet, because I also wanted to upgrade my wiring. Instead of running around with the second tier cable, I wanted to go straight into the top tier 10k RF a tick and base my entire power grid off that. So I've been pulverizing up some obsidian, throwing that in my induction smelter to make hardened glass. Hardened glass combined with the electrum ingots I cooked up earlier makes empty energy conduits. These energy conduits, in a fluid transposer with a bunch of redstone I've cooked, I'm going to fill and produce the redstone energy conduit. I've got enough redstone melted down for 57 of these things. Don't mind the fire, it's not important. 57 redstone energy conduits. It's important. You can see there's actually no power coming in right now because I've removed all my wiring. So I'm going to produce these energy conduits and run around hooking up my entire base. Should I be concerned about that fire? I'm going to not be concerned about that fire. So the other thing I did, just to cut down on my cable requirements for now, is just move this auto packaging system over to this general direction. Now to that auto packager, I'm going to jump down here. This is how I travel. High speed, high octane. Take some wood I've got lying about, and we're going to give this auto packager a bit of a burl. It's hooked up to power, inventory on the left, give it an output on the right, and it should start cranking through these things. And as you can see, these are going down, and it's outputting the gravel, the compacted gravel. Nice, so that's the first step in metal production. The next thing I need to do for metal processing is I'm going to run these guys through a smeltery. Now, I'm going to need a couple of smelteries, and they're going to need to be quite big. So I grabbed a bunch of stuff out of my pulverizing system over there, and I'm going to use that to make some grout. I make quite a lot of grout. I've got 8 stacks here. I'm going to jam a bunch of this in this hopper, because that's feeding into this redstone furnace, which is outputting to this chest. Okay, so while we wait for the rest of this grout to finish cooking up, we're going to start setting up our smeltery area. So I've made myself a big old platform and dug out some holes to mark what's going on. The first thing we want to do to get set up is to sort out our molten fluid sorting system. So what I want to do is get 7 of every kind of ingot and use those ingots melted down to produce buckets. So you see I have 9 buckets here. I'm going to throw copper, silver, iron and lead into this smeltery, not all at once because it won't fit. And these are going to produce enough for me to get a molten bucket of each. So I want 1 of each kind of metal and a molten bucket. Alrighty, so while those were melting down a bit, I increased the height of the smeltery to up the pace at which I can do things. So now I'm just going to start pouring metal into buckets. The one irritating thing about this is, I don't know if you can see it, but 7 ingots is just a little bit too much. It's like a pixel perfect tick. Leaving 8 millibuckets every time. 7 buckets apparently works out as 1008 millibuckets. So I do unfortunately have to just flush it. It's just in the way. Just flush it. Wonderful. So we have our 9 different kinds of molten buckets. I'm just going to jam these in a chest for use later. You can see we also have here a bunch of smeltery stuff, so I'm going to use that now to build up these smelteries. Okay, so these smelteries are put together and all hooked up. You can see just around the back here, it's a bit precarious, but the lava is pumping in from my main lava system. So that's just taking excess from the lava generators. I've got an item duct coming down here, this is pumping the items in. This one is set to silver, lead, iron, copper, which are not going to form alloys, and the same with the other 5 in the other one. And on a white list, so it will only accept these. It's also very important, I've ignored metadata. That means all the different kinds of copper, that is copper dust, copper gravel, and copper sand, are going to go in here, because those are denoted by the metadata. So you can see it's the same deal over here, except with the other 5, aluminum, gold, platinum, tin, and nickel. Alright, and so once these have melted down, they're going to be pumped out straight away into this system, where each of the single metals has its own bin. The bin's going to fill up. Once it's full, the metal will solidify into a block, and it'll be pumped out by these item ducts, which I've servoed in order to power them. And so everything will rock in here. All that's left is to switch it on by pumping in the metals. Bit of a moment of truth. I've spent quite a bit of time on this, and when these break, they break hard, and they're a pain to clean. So, a item duct here. This chest, full of things that need processing, set to export, and power it. Now we hold our breath and make sure this whole thing works. It's going to take a little while for these item ducts to pump things in, so we wait very patiently, very patiently. And now this is full. Now it's important to check. This is full of silver. Silver is one of the items denoted in this item duct, and this thing should be full also, and it is full of gold. So that's going to melt down a whole lot of gold. It's going to take a while for these smelteries to chew through the backlog. I also have a big pile of stuff that needs processing in here, so I'm going to move that over as well. Conveniently, it's 1 inventory's worth. So that is stuffed. Next, I want to increase my auto-sieving capabilities. Alright, so things are looking a bit better around here. I added a bunch of autonomous activators, as many as I could afford at that time, on a couple of sieves, and now it's just cranking through these items. Nothing at all is chugged. The pipe was a bottleneck. Things were spilling out everywhere because the pipe couldn't keep up, so I upgraded those item ducts by throwing them in a liquid transposer with some glowstone that I jammed in the magma crucible. And there's a couple more sort of lying about. Right, so I want to be able to leave this overnight to crank through and really fill up those barrels that I've sort of spammed everywhere. It's a very lazy way of grabbing items, very lazy indeed, but I had a bunch of wood, and so I threw them all down, and that's just going to grab everything. I'll work on tidying it up a bit better later. But so in order to keep it going overnight while I sleep, my character doesn't have to be on the server, I need myself a chunk loader. To make a chunk loader, I first want an enchantment table. And the enchantment table needs a book, 4 obsidian, and 2 diamonds. So I have some obsidian on me. I can make a book with patterns, paper, and string. I still don't have any sugar, so I've made the paper by pulverizing down logs to make wood chips. Gives me paper. Combine that with the string and the pattern, and I get my book. Now with... oh, I need another diamond from upstairs. I do apologize, it is very late. Got a bunch of extra diamonds here. Makes me an enchantment table. Now to turn that into the chunk loader, I need to add an ender pearl and a bunch of gold. So I have some gold. I'm going to go over here to my often neglected mob farm, which is just full of crap, including some ender pearls. So that's pretty cool. Some carrots and a potato. Awesome. That's excellent. A potato. My goodness. That's excellent. But anyway, I can make the chunk loader now with that ender pearl. And I'll drop that. I'm going to drop it under my work table to keep it out of the way. Just turn on the chunk grid and make sure everything is okay. Everything looks pretty baller. And the last thing I'm going to do tonight, because the time is, if you'll allow me to check, a little past 4 in the morning. So I've really pushed myself to get this all done. But the last thing I want to do is, I'm actually out of dirt and I'm going to be needing some of that tomorrow. So I'm going to retrofit this clay producing system just by removing the water sources. I'm going to grab I have my dolly. I'm going to run over here, grab the leaf barrel. I'm going to not run, I'm going to drag this barrel very slowly. And replace this chest with it. And so now these leaves, from all those trees I ground down, 16 stacks worth of leaves, are going to make their way into these barrels, compost down, and churn out as dirt. So tomorrow I'll have a bunch of resources, including dirt, and pretty much everything you can sieve, except things you get from sieving dirt. And, you know, other things. Sieving soul sand. Obviously I won't be doing that quite yet. Alrighty then. Well, thanks again for stopping by, everybody. It has, as always, been a pleasure, but we are well and truly out of time for today. We had to work pretty late this evening, but because of all that, we are back on track. We've put ourselves together this pretty excellent resource production system that's going to absolutely help us progress through the next stages of the game, through the next week. So stop by tomorrow for day 4, where I'll be jumping into steel, working on a little bit of blood magic, and maybe, if I'm really onto it, starting the beginnings of an ME system. So thanks again for stopping by. I'm LBC, and this was day 3 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge series.